now that we're here, we've been doing it. Number 14 is this one, so I'm a pretty casual guy now.
Yeah, shooting from the hip now, off the cuff, as they say.
Who needs a plan anymore when you just got a love of talking music with your boys and cracking a cold one.
Don't call it a comeback, cause we're always here.
Just been doing it though. Doing it. Hopefully, a few people are listening at least now.
I think so. I know for a fact. I think my dad listens.
That's at least one other person. Welcome to Strange Conversations, where sometimes just don't feel like coming up with a catchy intro. My name's Austin Kenny.
And I'm Dylan Bennett. And this week we're looking back on 2020 so far. We're checking out what we loved, what we liked, maybe what we didn't, what we missed, and looking forward to what's coming around the corner.
Yeah, it's 2020 has been
Bit of a shit show?
multiple years packed into not even a full. I mean, we're halfway through at this point. I think we just wanted to catch our breath because a lot has been happening in the world of music as well as just in the world. And 2020 has it's been a decade for sure.
It's been best of the decade episode. Here we go.
The starting off the 20s with best of the 20s so far.
One thing I will say, I don't want to speak for you, Austin, but I kind of looking at what you have, I think that this is kind of a trend. I realized making this list that before we started this podcast, I guess I just didn't really pay much attention to 2020 like releases as they were coming out because all of my best picks, like all my picks for this year for what I really liked were stuff from March onward. I didn't have anything from February and January. Not saying that there wasn't anything good in those months, but I just like it didn't make my top, it didn't make the cut.
Well, one thing I think doing this podcast really changed how I have been listening to music in general, and I don't think I have been this in tune with a year in a long time. Like I've really just been focused on like, all right, this is a new album, this is what's coming out, and I think that's because we kind of wanted to do that with this podcast. Yeah. So it's been a really different music listening experience, and we almost started at the beginning of the year. I mean, it was back in February that was episode 1, I think.
Episode
is when we started. Yeah,
Wasted Shirt, which was like end of February release.
Yeah, I mean, not even to mention the lost recording of Automatic.
True. That's a 2019er, though.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, we started with Wasted Shirt was the first 2020. Didn't make either of our lists. It's one I honestly haven't listened to really again since that episode. I think it was still a fun one to start on, and there wasn't really too much on my list that was things we missed. Color Theory by Soccer Mommy is the one that was before. It came out right around when we started. That came out in February, I think, of 2020. I don't know why. I just didn't know it came out or something. I just missed it, but it's definitely one of my favorite releases of this year. I love Soccer Mommy. She's awesome. I got this baby on vinyl.
It's a really cool album cover. It's like a really cool album cover.
The whole aesthetic of the album is really cool. It's like Game Boy color kind of kind of vibe. It's really just like banger after banger. Circle the Drain, Bloodstream. Soccer Mommy just knows how to make like a catchy indie pop tune. Her debut on Matador, Clean, or Still Clean, maybe is the full name of it. I don't know.
Hmm.
Another just great record. If you're not a Soccer Mommy listener, go check her out. Another
Is she
Matador.
still on Matador?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure. I'm pretty
I
certain.
just thought I guess I thought like maybe she moved or something, but I guess not.
I
I'm
don't
always
think it's
surprised. I keep learning more and more Matador bands that I always miss that they're on Matador. I don't know how.
yeah. So that's definitely a favorite 2020 of mine. Is got to be Soccer Mommy that we missed. I don't know. What were there any we missed kind of off the bat that you think deserve a little
Um,
love?
well, there's a couple recent ones that I think we just like in the like a couple June ones that I think we just haven't had the chance to dissect yet.
Yeah, there's
But
just been so much
yeah.
this month. It's hard
Yeah,
to
a lot of
keep
really
up. It
good
feels like.
stuff this month. I guess one that maybe I think because they're singles, I like we haven't really talked a ton about. Maybe I mentioned this artist before, but there's been a now 5 singles leading up to an album by Jenny O, who is an artist I honestly didn't really know much about until I just got like recommended one of her songs, Even If I Tried, and I like gave it a listen and I really liked it, and kind of reminds me of like early Angel Olsen, sort of like a real sort of retro-y garage rock like singer-songwriter like 70s kind of vibe. And she just had 3 really strong of the 5, I think 3 really really strong singles. God Knows Why, What About That Day, and Even If I Tried. And it's just like really cool kind of retro rock sort of sound, but also like really really strong songwriting and really really catchy. And I'm excited to see that album come out. I think like right around the corner. I want to say. I know it got delayed, but I
I
don't
think
think it
it's
was quite out.
August, maybe.
Uh,
I want to say
hmm,
is last I saw. Got those singles too, and yeah, definitely that Angela Olsen vibe.
yeah.
Super super tight. Let's see what else. What else I got here? Well, another one that we didn't talk about that I have just recently really been loving. When it first came out, it came out kind of at the beginning of quarantine, and people were talking a lot about it. But Fiona Apple's "Fetch the Bolt Cutters" is a phenomenal album. I really didn't listen to her much before. I remember when this album came out, I liked kind of the first couple tracks on it. The one song Shamika is just really catchy, and it just kind of got stuck in my head again one day. So I went back to listening to the album, and it's really just it's so phenomenal. I can't recommend it enough. Have you listened to it?
I actually haven't. I don't really know why I haven't. Like, I think it's one thing that like I keep circling around and keep forgetting. Like when I'm finally that was the cat. Sorry. Finally making I'll get to it soon. I know. It's on like the to-do list of things to listen to, but I have not yet listened to it, despite everyone, basically everybody giving it glowing praise. I still have yet to get to it. I think I listened to the very first song, like in the first week it came out, and I don't really remember it striking me. And I just don't know a lot about Fiona Apple, so I think I think I was dumb and I just gave the first song one chance and like didn't instantly vibe with it, so I just kind of moved on. But I think I should definitely give the whole album a go through.
Yeah, I guess recently I've been listening to. I don't know if somber is the right word, but um, I don't know. It's definitely a kind of mellow album. It's got some kind of sporadic moments, some really chaotic moments that are really cool, but it's definitely got some just really nice piano ballads. She's
Hmm.
incredibly talented piano player, especially the opening track. I want somebody or I
Hmm.
want somebody to
I think
love.
that was maybe what didn't do it for me is I don't know how I feel about piano ballads. I feel like I
Hmm.
have to be in a very, very specific mood. Sometimes I just want to listen to ballads, and then other times like I avoid them like the plague, and I don't
No,
really know what determines that.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, when I first listened to the album, it definitely didn't hook me as much. But going back to it, I've been enjoying putting it on as I drive to work. It's been a good listen. A lot of women in music this year. Speaking of Women in Music Part 3 by Haim, that just came out the other day, is another just banging album. I haven't gotten to listen to it a ton because it really did just come out the other day. I've really been loving it. It's super fun, kind of summer sunshine vibes, and they've been working with a lot of really cool artists. Like Rostam is on it, so it's got like some Vampire Weekend sounds, just that. It has some moments where it's got like these really lo-fi acoustic songs, which are really cool.
That's cool.
And then it has really just great pop guitar, like kind of almost country songs, and it's just all over the place, and they're really cool too. Another one of those bands that's just like cool people, cool music. Yeah, I want to get listening to it more so I can have a little more to say, but that's about all I can say for it now. Is it's just it's so cool to see these sisters making music together because they've been doing it for so long, and
Yeah.
you can just tell that they know they just have such an amazing chemistry.
Yeah. I don't know why, but for the longest time, for some reason, I had this weird misconception of Haim that like they were. For some reason, I always thought that they were like Taylor Swift or something. Like they were much more like poppy than they actually were, and I don't know where that came from. I've never really actually like listened to much of them, but like I've seen them do like What's in My Bag and Amoeba, and like they have good music taste, and they played like some of their music in the background, and it was good. I don't know why I always assumed that they were like much more poppy and kind of like a little more like corporate than they were, but that's not the case, and I don't know why.
They're no corporate band, bro. They might be actually. I don't know what record label they're on.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows?
but they're
Um,
but they're awesome.
yeah,
Definitely. I haven't listened to a lot of their earlier stuff. They have a couple singles from their earlier stuff I like. They are kind of Dixie Chicks-esque. They
yeah.
are. This new album is really like, as far as I know, because I haven't listened to a lot of their music, but I think this is their best. Just it has kind of the most indie rock sound to it, I guess, as compared to their other albums.
One of the things that I guess if we're sticking to the theme of just like real badass ladies in music, one of the albums that I really dug that I was thinking maybe we should do a review on, but like I also think that it's very similar to the Lost Kellys album we listened to, in that it's it doesn't have like any particular like standout songs, but I think it's just like together as an album, it's good, and like it's something that like I like enjoy listening to. Is Tower of Age, which is an album by the band Lithics. They have a female front person, and they just have a really cool kind of like old school post punk sound. A lot like something like the Slits, or like Delta 5, or like Au Pairs. Kind of like that very sort of scratchy guitar, like heavy, like heavy melodic bass lines, and like real funky sort of like grooves. But they also have
Yeah.
some like crazy, like kind of like anti sort of melody like things going on, with like weird little ups and downs like in different directions with like the guitar lines and the vocals and stuff.
Yeah, I listened to that after you mentioned it because I knew we kind of talked about maybe doing an episode on it at one point, so I gave it a listen. And yeah, it was really cool. It reminded me a lot of Automatic. It just got like
Yeah,
those
yeah.
those those bass lines that carry the song, which is that classic like Peter Hook style post punk. Just the bass line is that constant drive that keeps the song going.
It's a definitely just like a very solid album, and it's cool because it kind of further solidifies that like I really think that Troubled in Mind is kind of slowly becoming one of my favorite record labels. They had also on my favorite of the year, they had also put out Fax's album that we reviewed. And I just think that Trouble in Mind is kind of showing that they are maybe the best label for just like cutting edge like new post punk bands, um, especially Chicago bands. I believe they're based out of Chicago. I know Fax is from Chicago, and I know another artist on the label that I like a lot, Negative Scanner, is also from Chicago. But Lithics I know is from Portland, Oregon. Good album and a cool band, and I'm excited to see like what else comes down the pipeline from Trouble in Mind. because they've been shooting straight this year.
An album we talked about that I really loved was Every Bad by Porridge Radio. I ended up
Yeah, me
getting that
too.
on vinyl, and I think one other crossover that we have on these lists, but I see that Every Bad is one of them. I feel like in that episode, I don't know if we did it enough justice because I listened to it more after that episode, and I was like, man, this album is just killer. And I feel
Yeah.
like when we did that episode, we were kind of fresh off a couple listens, and it's a ripping album.
Yeah, I think it might honestly be like of all the albums we did, it might be the one that I have continued to just like and listen to the most. I think if I had to rate all the new music we've reviewed, I think that might be at the top, honestly. That's it's such a cool mix of I mean, Pavement and like bands like Pavement, I guess you could consider them in a way post-punk, but I feel like the stereotypical kind of sound that people think of when they think of post-punk is not really like a Pavement or like a,
Yeah,
like Modest Mouse or something like that. But
I
Porridge Radio is
definitely
a really cool middle point between like post-punk and like slacker rock and indie rock.
yeah, I would definitely use the slacker rock label more. And I mean, yeah, I guess I don't know what the post punk is. We talk about it so much. It's
Mhm.
such a loosely defined term, I guess, but or it depends on how you look at it. um, but yeah, it's definitely like that's so wild slacker rock. Those just builds that the song had,
Yeah.
every song has that just explode at the end. And when I listen to the record, just like when the first side ends, you're like, man, it feels like I just listened to a whole album with that first side. It has so much packed into it, so much like
Yeah.
emotion and sound, and so explosive that it's such a dense and awesome listen that is really worth like the just kind of top to bottom sit back and go.
They're on Secretly Canadian, and they're a label that like I feel like I always see bands that surprise me from Secretly Canadian. They don't have anybody off the top of my head I could name that like is in like some of my favorite artists, but I always feel like I see them all the time signing or like sometimes even re-releasing albums that like really surprise me and that end up like really loving. Like Trouble in Mind, I think another label that I maybe haven't paid much attention to before this year, but definitely like has gotten, has gained my attention as another label to like to dig through the roster of.
One album that you brought to the table that really surprised me was The Motherstone, Caleb Landry Jones, and is honestly tied with one of my favorite things that we talked about up with Porridge Radio that I've listened to so much. It's just such a crazy album that I don't know, I haven't heard much like it, and I love listening to it. It's just so much fun. Got it on vinyl. Has not arrived yet, but I'm very excited for it too.
It is such a wonky and crazy ride of an album. It is insane. It's so like vaudeville like kaleidoscope. It's very.
It's definitely an acid trip of an album.
Yeah, it's very like it's like I am the walrus, but like kind of more dark and twisted.
Beatles acid trip gone bad.
Yeah,
but
that's
but
super cool.
yeah, but not it's not
Not
scary.
scary.
Not at all. It's just it's weird, and it's all over the place. Another favorite of mine that we talked about.
Yeah, I feel like the stuff that we've talked about like has been the bulk of my list, and if not, like the other stuff has been things that like have just come out. Like one album that we honestly maybe even end up doing an episode on, but possibly not. Is another album like Lithics for me, which is just like a solid album start to front. Is Corky's debut album, which just came out like a couple weeks ago. We both got it on vinyl in the mail, and it is pretty damn solid. It is Ian MacKaye of Fugazi and Minor Threat fame. It is his new project with
Yeah,
the
the
bassist
bass
of
player. Yeah.
former bassist of Fugazi, Joe Laley, and Amy Amy Farina, I want to say is her last.
Yeah.
So
Is
Amy,
isn't that
Joe,
his
and
is
Ian.
that his wife or his partner
I'm
or
not sure
I
actually.
think they are. I want to say they're married, Ian
I know
and.
they were in the Evens together, which was like a post Fugazi band thing that they did. Yeah, really solid song. I actually got to see them live in 2019. They played in my hometown. The record store in my hometown, Chunk Records, set up a show at a local art gallery, and I guess the owner is like friendly with Ian MacKaye, and he played for free. It was a free show. They
That's
were just
awesome.
like, please nobody record. Like they were like, that's the one thing. They're like, you can take pictures, but just don't record anything because this is literally all unrecorded, unreleased material, and we just want to keep it like under wraps. And it was awesome. It was honestly like such a good show. For like a 60 or so old man, like Ian MacKaye still fucking rips, and like it was pretty dope to be in the same room with like a living legend.
I was gonna say with Corky, I know at one point we had a fan base that was a big Fugazi following, so I don't know if
Yeah.
they would trash me for saying this, but I'm not like a crazy huge Fugazi fan. I listen to like some songs and stuff, mostly that is 10 songs or 13 songs or
Yeah, 13
whatever
songs.
the number of songs that are on that album. Um, I like that, and as you can tell from this knowledge I'm spewing right here, not like the biggest Fugazi fan. I like this Corky album more than I like most Fugazi. I kind of like the old man Ian voice, like
Yeah.
that gruff sound, and I guess the lyrics too, I resonate with a little bit more. I thought like lyrically this album is super strong, and
I love the harmonies.
oh
Like
yeah,
the
it's
Ian
just
and Amy harmonies are so dope.
yeah, and instrumentally like the bass is some of the bass lines are so awesome on I
I
think it's
know which
called
one.
Say
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know which one you're. Yeah, say yeah. It's so funky. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Beautiful is blurrier. Yeah, it's
yeah,
I'm not the biggest Fugazi fan, but I like this more than Fugazi. I'm not super into a lot of hardcore music, and this is definitely a bit more tame. And I'm not
yeah.
tame. It's not
It's more
hardcore.
melodic for
Yeah,
sure. I
it's more
think.
melodic, and it's more just kind of your straightforward indie rock band.
Yeah,
It's not like a punk band. It's not like a hardcore band. It's just like some nice indie rock. Definitely more up my alley than a lot of Fugazi, because Fugazi has like just a kind of a dense catalog. Sometimes I don't know. It's not always what I'm down to listen to, and this just has a lot
yeah,
of songs that like I can just like get down with these a lot more. I can like a lot more accessible for like playing music for people too. I think
yeah.
like I don't know, they're good playlist songs and things like that.
I
Though they're
agree.
not though it's not on Spotify
No,
or
I
anything.
to it is on Spotify now.
Oh, it is.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
surprisingly, yeah.
oh, cool.
No, yeah, I totally actually agree with that. Like as much as I do, as much as I understand how like important Fugazi is, and I really dig their whole ethos of like making music affordable for fans and like live music affordable for fans and like resisting, especially in their time in the 90s, like resisting the urge to like sell with like these large record labels. I do think that while it's cool, I think it's also really cool that they got a lot more experimental like in the 90s. I yeah, I agree. Like 13 songs is great like front to back. Like I could always listen to that album. In a lot of ways they're just not necessarily fully my cup of tea. I think that there's like I think that some of their albums make really interesting listens like for hearing, especially I think kind of like I feel like maybe one of their more underrated albums, but I think Instrument Soundtrack is one of their most interesting albums, just being like essentially a bunch of demos and like jams of them just kind of like fucking around a lot and playing around with stuff that isn't really like hardcore necessarily, but more kind of like post rocky and sort of like. But I agree with like I think Corky is something that like I'll definitely listen to more often than I will Fugazi.
The other crossover album we have, or not so much the whole album. It's
Yeah, I
it's
was gonna
it's
say you might not like I don't say the whole album because you might not
yeah,
like what I
no,
have to say
I'm
about.
Well,
the whole
yeah.
album.
But Car Seat Headrest, at least the song "There Must Be More Than Blood." I did write the album on my list. I was listening to the song "Weightlifters" today. I like that. "Weightlifters" and "There Must Be More Than Blood," and I like "Can't Cool Me Down" as well. I do like that song. But
Yeah.
it's definitely not the best Car Seat Headrest. It wasn't what I wanted, but "There Must Be More Than Blood" is enough to satiate me
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
now.
I had that single. That single was great enough that that single definitely was gonna make the list. I mean, I'll be honest. Like listening to it again, like with time, I think it's a bit more disappointing than it is fulfilling. But I do think There Must Be More Than Blood is so good and so catchy and just so like such an uplifting song that I can kind of look past the growing pains and the experiments of this album and hope and project that there is something like, really awesome on the horizon for Car Seat Headrest. I think that like every artist I love that changes over time always has albums kind of like in the middle that feel kind of awkward and feel a little bit like growing pains. And I think that this might be that album for Car Seat Headrest. I think that as much as I like want him to just stick to like, Teens of Denial, Teens of Style era, like kind of Car Seat Headrest, just like the edge of lo-fi, like just on the edge of lo-fi and hi-fi. I don't really know how to define it, but I feel like I need to because there's so many great bands on that edge. I think Pavement is right on that edge too. I understand that like an artist like Car Seat Headrest is gonna just constantly change, like constantly try new things and just like go a million miles an hour. And so There Must Be More Than Blood is a fantastic song. The album Mad Low, not so fantastic in my eyes.
Probably my least favorite Car Seat Headrest album. I could say. Yeah. I would definitely say that. Um, no other way to put it, unfortunately. At least There Must Be More Than Blood is a real 10 out of 10 tune.
Yeah, this is true. And I think like an album that people will kind of view it differently with time. Like even with maybe the next whenever and whatever the next Car Seat Headrest album will be, I think it'll get reappraised. It'll be something like I don't know. It'll be something like Wowie Zowie maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not. But
No,
Wowie Zowie is
that's a
maybe
pretty big
pretty
comparison,
it's a
I would
pretty
say.
great album.
Pretty bold.
Yeah, maybe Wowie Zowie. That was pretty bold. That was more maybe stupid than bold, but one thing I just want to mention real quick. I don't have a ton to say to it, but like listening back to it, I think I mentioned it on like one of our first episodes. But I just gave it a listen, like trying to wrap up the year, gave it a listen to just double check and realize that it's like it still holds up, and I still think it's like fantastic. Viagra Boys, a Swedish post-punk band, they had an EP come out this year in early March called Common Sense, and it's just four really great songs. Like one is just like a straightforward, like aggressive, like kind of Idols or Fontaines DC kind of like ripper. There's like one really bluesy, like melodic, almost kind of like Yellow Days or King Cruel type song. There's and then there's like two songs that are like kind of in between those two things, but there's this weird sound that Viagra Boys has where it's like this strange mix of like aggressive post punk and like soulful kind of like bluesy indie rock, and they just really killed it with these four songs. And I just highly recommend anybody check them out because they're a cool band to look out for. I think that I'm very excited to see what's around the corner for them. I don't think this EP was like in preparation for an album. I think it was just sort of like an EP to like kind of tie over 2020, but maybe in 2021 we'll see some new albums from Viagra Boys cuz this EP definitely got me excited about them.
I think we should maybe get talking to what is the future of 2020. I have a couple. The last albums I just want to shout out before we talk about the upcoming 2020 releases is Phoebe Bridgers' Punisher. I know I've talked about this one a lot. We've kind of followed the singles along the way. It's such a phenomenal album. She is such a great songwriter, grown so much musically over the past few years, and I love this album. Love Phoebe
Yeah.
Bridgers. if you have you listened to it yet? Have you checked it
Yeah,
out?
I've listened to the singles as they came out, as like you were giving me heads up on them. Really good, really cool, really like a very. I think I'm not familiar with Fiona Apple, but like somber, like I think that's a good word to describe it. I think Punisher is a good name for the album. I think it does a good job of like it's not a sad album, but it's like it's
It's
got a weight.
melancholy.
Yeah, it's got a melancholy weight to it that I think is like it feels very very 2020. It feels very timely. But not in a depressing way, kind of in like a cathartic kind of way.
And then the other two albums, I have a lot of Matador albums on my list here, but Traditional Technique, Stephen Malkmus, that was like one of the
Very good.
first
Yeah.
episodes, episode 2 maybe,
Yeah.
honestly. It's a great album. Going back to it, I kind of forgot about it. Then as getting ready for this, I went back to listening to it, and it's it's some good Stevie Malk fun melodic goofiness, and yeah, he's just good songwriter. Good,
Yeah.
he knows how to make a folky. I feel like he's always been a folk artist in a sense, in a weird way, like indie folk. But this album, I think he just really dived into that more, and that sound really works for him.
Yeah, I'd be totally down to hear another album like in this style. I'd like to see I'd like I mean, I don't know. I'd like to see like I think the players, the people he played with on this album would be a very very cool addition to the Jicks. I actually got into like the Jicks through this album. For some reason I'd never really given the Jicks much of a chance. Like it was just like Pavement or nothing at all. But then I listened to this album and I was like, you know what? Stephen Malkmus does a damn good job. Like without it necessarily being Pavement. And so I went and listened to a lot of the Jicks, and it's really, really good. And even
I
his solo stuff, like his one little, I think he has one solo album um, that's
I
really,
actually
really good.
I actually got into Pavement through the Jicks. I had heard some Pavement songs and it hadn't quite hooked me yet, but there were some Jick songs that I were really Stephen Malkmus and the Jick songs that I were really into. From there, I just kind of started diving into Pavement, and then it hit a point where I was like, "Why am I listening to this band when I could be listening to Pavement?" And you
Yeah.
know, I still like both bands. I think the Jicks lets Stephen Malkmus have a lot more kind of fun with the melodic stuff that he likes to do. It's not as like, I guess, yeah, Pavement has more of that slacker rock that
I also
means
think it
anything.
feels like, I think also just like with time and with how critically like appraised Pavement has like is and how influential they are to so many artists. I think Pavement is like in some ways over, not overrated, but over, it's like it's held to this high standard of like it's like art, it's like serious, it like demands to be like studied and like, and I think a lot of the humor and like the satire and like the lightheartedness and the fun that was like probably very very evident while Pavement was making the albums. Like I think a lot of that kind of goes away. But I think that the Jicks and like Stephen Malkmus's solo stuff, like what he's making currently, still has that sense of like humor and playfulness and just like like the wry smile. That I think is what like people who overly like who overly seriously like analyze Pavement and indie rock and like just like slacker rock in general, I think they kind of lose the fact that like yeah, it's great music, it's like fantastic music, it's super influential, but it's also like it's supposed to be kind of dumb and kind of fun, and like it can be smart and dumb at the same time.
My final album on my 2020s that so far is The Perfume Genius Set My Heart on Fire Immediately. That was an episode we did. I think it's a really phenomenal album, and the more I listen to it, the more I kind of fall in love with it. Check out our episode on it. I won't say much
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. I think I less so love it, but I do definitely like it a lot. And I think Describe is phenomenal song. Phenomenal song.
Yeah.
Um I think I'll save, I mean, the last things I have are singles, and I think that they'd be a better way to transition into
Yeah.
talking about what's to come.
This, I guess, yeah, this is the future of 2020. It's a little bit of the hot new singles as well thrown in, because we're only halfway through 2020, and I think it's still shaping up to be like it. We've already talked about so many great albums already, and we still have so many more to talk about. Let's take a quick break before doing that, and
Let's do it.
let the people know what's going on in the Strange Podcast universe.
In the SCCU, Strange Con. Oh yeah, I guess it would be podcast. It would be SCPU.
SCPU. I was trying to do the Batman noise, but it didn't work.
It's like
It's hard. So, at this point, you've probably already adventured with us in the Strange Campaign, our new Dungeons and Dragons podcast. Session 0 and Session 1.1 are out now on most of the places you can listen to podcasts. If you go to our Instagram, you can find all the episodes.
Yeah, it is gonna be. It's gonna be the journey of a lifetime, and if you're a loser and you're like, Dungeons and Dragons is for nerds, like every freaking thing that you like right now is made by people who thought of those ideas by playing Dungeons and Dragons. Like literally everything that you're into right now is inspired by hours and hours of the people who made them playing Dungeons and Dragons. And not to be pretentious about it, but it's just dumb
It's fun.
It's funny, it's lighthearted, it's got, scares and thrills and adventure and comedy and action and all the things in between.
A lot of tears.
A lot of heavy moments.
Yeah.
It's a real treat to get to be the DM. It is so much fun to see Ben, Rob, and Austin just really go for the fences with their characters and the wacky shit they get into. So keep an eye out. We'll have episodes every Tuesday, and it'll be real fun as we go.
And I'm a turtle.
Yeah. And Austin is a huge turtle that talks.
So follow us on our Instagram at strange.pod.convo, and you can find all the good stuff there. All the playlists we make, all the new episodes, the link to our website, and all that stuff.
Yeah. And if you're not on Instagram, if you're either weird like that, or I guess either smart like that, I think there's only really two options for people who are not on social media. You can check us out on our website. Go to Strange Convo Pod, no periods, not like the Insta, just Strange Convo Pod, all one word, .squarespace.com. You can find all our playlists, all our episodes to Strange Conversations, all the episodes to the Strange Campaign. You can find some little bios and tidbits, and you'll find some stuff that we'll be cooking up in the very near future as we expand the website and get a nice little ecosystem of content growing there.
Yeah, and you'll also want to follow our Instagram too, because our second bracket will be starting very, very soon, so you're not going to want to miss out on that. Won't say too much more for now. We'll let the tension build, but yeah, more to come for the Strange Podcast stuff. So definitely follow all of our things.
Yeah, can you be a little bit quieter for like 20 more minutes?
Are you recording?
Yeah, you're bleeding. You're bleeding through the door. Sorry, it's okay.
The true Strange Conversation is the conversation of Ainsley and Morgan. That's the background noise, at least like a little bit in one episode. That's what the Strange Conversation really is.
We'll see the internet sleuths out there if you can piece it all together and decipher it.
Yeah, there's a secret message in the back of every episode. If you piece together all the background noise and enhance the audio, you need to press the enhance button on your computer, and
Hack
you'll
in.
you'll learn the secrets of the podcast.
I'm in.
So we've talked about what's exciting with 2020 thus far, all of our favorite hits and albums, bangers and boppers and doodads galore. But there's still a lot to come in 2020. And I know, Dylan, some of these boys are some of your favorite boys, so I'll let you take it away with some of these upcoming releases.
I mean, I think that Idol's singles have gotten me sufficiently very, very hyped for this new album, especially Grounds. I actually, and I think on the last episode I said I liked Mr. Motivator more, but like I listened to the two a lot more in the week
all
since,
about
and I
the
realized
Grounds.
Grounds is much better. Grounds is much better. It's better. It's like it got a chunkier production. I think at first I liked Ground. I think I liked Grounds' like verse better, but the chorus isn't chunky enough for me. Like the guitars and the bass don't get beefy enough. They don't kind of notch it up on the chorus enough for me, but Grounds definitely does it, and I cannot wait for that album.
Yeah, that's in September, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'll be exciting. Definitely expecting an old episode on that one. Another episode you can definitely expect is Fontaine's DC. I don't know what is it a Hero's Death is the name of the album.
I believe so. Yeah.
And we've gotten 3 singles so far, and this most recent one, I thought
It's
A Hero's Death couldn't be topped, but Televised Mind is so good.
Yeah. I was right on the same boat as Austin. Like I liked I think it's is it I Don't Mind or what?
I don't
what
fit
it?
in or something.
I don't belong.
Yeah. I don't belong.
I liked it, but it's definitely like a slower song. Like it's a very good song, but it's like a slower song and it doesn't have the sort of like kind of like swagger that I feel like a lot of Fontaine's DC songs have, like through the front man. Like he sings with this just like swagger and sort of like confidence that
his
like
attitude live, he has just such a great persona on stage. He really does put out this just like energy, and it's so cool. Just a very charismatic singer. High charisma rolls for sure.
Yeah, Televised Mind is just absolute banger. Really cool. I definitely have to give it another listen to get more of the lyrical content, but like from what I did pick up, it's like it's definitely it's nice to hear bands. I feel like I love that post-punk bands like haven't lost any of their sort of just like the fighting spirit of like punk, just like calling out bullshit and like the kind of horrors of the world. Because I think a lot of our music either tries to distract us or at least just make us feel better. But there's something nice about having music to just make you angry instead.
Yeah,
I think it's needed. It's needed in its doses.
And they really do just bring in that Irish kind of like folk and just strong like word play. Like Irish people are just notoriously good at writing. Like they're the country that have won the most like Nobel English prizes, and they are sorry, not English, like literature prizes or something like right some sort of Nobel
literature
or writing or something,
or Pulitzer or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's phenomenal. I don't know what it is about Irish folk and knowing how to do the things with the words where you put them together real nice. You know what I mean? When you
them words go together good.
Yeah, when you do it real right, and that's why people listen to us talk.
Because we talk good. Both of those bands, Idols and Fontaine's DC, are both on Partisan Records, which is a London slash Brooklyn based record label that is also another label that has me excited. I was listening to actually an
Little
album.
hogs riding by
Oh
your
yeah,
house.
got the yeah. Those are my boys out there. Those are, yeah, they're giving me a like we call it a road salute
Yeah.
here in the Nova. Those
They
are,
know when you can't be out there.
yeah, I know they're real sad. Old road hog can't get out there. That's my call sign. Road hog. What was I saying?
Sorry.
Oh no.
Talking about the
uh,
label.
Yeah, I was listening to a band called Pottery that I just found just through going through the website and looking at their artists, and they are really cool. And their album actually just their second album just came out on the 26th of this month, and I was literally listening to it, and I was like, I think I should send this to Austin because I think you'd really like it, and B, I think it would be a really cool episode because it's like a weird mix of like Devo and television and um like kind of just like kind of wacko sort of zany like humor. It's real cool and real kind of dancey and funky and sort of post-punky, but also has that kind of like spindly guitar of like early Talking Heads or television, and it's like really cool.
I don't honestly, there's nothing that is jumping to my mind that is upcoming in 2020. I know you have one other
Well, I was gonna
band.
ask you if what would you say was your favorite release so far of the year? Because I think while this is both like my last thing is both fortunately a preview of what's to come, it also I think honestly might be my favorite music of 2020
Hmm.
so far.
Well, I guess before that, then the one thing I wanted a 2020 prediction that I'm really hoping for is some new parquet courts. I
Yeah,
feel
that
like
would
we're
be.
we're long
I
overdue
know.
for a new album. I know they were about to go on tour before everything happened, and I can't imagine it was going to be on Wide Awake. I mean, maybe it could have been. I don't
No,
know, but
there's no way. It's
it
two
was
or maybe even 3 years old at
it was
this point.
2018, yeah. So it was 2 years old, and it seemed like a lot of new imagery and stuff on like the tour posters and things like that.
Yeah.
So maybe I think COVID might have changed their release plans
Yeah.
for said new album, but I really think there is something brewing in the Parquet Court universe.
Yeah. Oh my God. I would be so excited for that. I think I always come around. I have this weird relationship with new Parquet Courts music where like I think Light Up Gold like without a doubt I think is possibly the best album of the 2010s.
Yeah, it's
Like
so good. I love that album.
it's
It's
so
definitely
good.
my favorite Parquet Courts too.
It's a 10 out of 10. Sunbathing Animals is like a 9.5, like or a 9. Like it is also Sunbathing Animals is like such an amazing sophomore effort, and I think it's also like I think it's a slightly I think it's a more concise like album. I do miss some of those like short little interlude songs, but also some of those interlude songs on Light Up Gold are like I want them to be full songs because they're really good, but they're
Yeah.
like a minute long. Um, and then I have this weird relationship where the new albums, like post Sunbathing Animals, as they come out, I always end up not really liking them at first, or just thinking like, oh, this change is kind of in a stranger direction, or like a different direction than I was expecting. But then I always like come back around and I just like absolutely fall in love with them. Like I'm absolutely like head over heels into Wide Awake right now. And I remember liking the single Wide Awake a lot. I thought it was really funky. I thought it was kind of like Talking Heads like. But the album itself, I was like, it's not really punky enough. Like, I wish it was
Yeah.
more punky. But now it's like, I've been listening to it more, and it's just like, it's so funky and it's so fun. And it's like, I love all the little organs and like synth sounds they have in the songs. It's so good.
The bass is at its best in
Yeah.
Wide Awake in
Oh,
for
no.
Parquet Courts.
Violence. It's got to be
Oh,
violent.
I meant the
Oh.
album. I
Oh,
just meant
yeah,
the
yeah,
album
yeah.
in
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
general.
yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
bass is just in other albums I would never note the bass as like something that is like a defining feature of Parquet Courts, but the bass in Wide Awake is so awesome.
Yeah.
Like I just love that it is funkier. It's way funkier, and it's very like, yeah, Mardi Gras. I mean, I'm thinking of the song Mardi Gras Beads, but it definitely feels like they
Yeah.
spent like some time in New Orleans and they're just like, let's make just like a fun, wild,
Yeah.
like all over the place kind of like it. The whole album seems like something that could be like played marching through a town with like
Yeah.
following and like a bunch of instruments and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
it's so good.
I keep getting like I literally every day at least once a day I get like the lick of violence stuck in my head, just like the doom 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 doom, like, oh, it's so good. Bounces daily life.
I always love like a good Andrew Savage, like, your brain is a
Yeah,
piece of
the rant.
satellite that is
I
floating
I
in the
love
ether of your void.
I love the Andrew Savage rant. Just like the angry, slightly nonsensical, but like also like crazy sharp.
Yeah.
I always try to look up the lyrics to Content Nausea is another one
Oh,
of those songs. It's
that
like
song.
Content Nausea, da, 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 something something, da, 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 I can't get it. And it's like at first you're just like, oh, go off, okay. And then like I looked up the lyrics and I was like, damn, it's like also like crazy well written too, which
Yeah.
like makes sense.
Yeah. Andrew Savage, definitely one of the best lyricists
Yeah.
of our decade, of our time.
Yeah. I
But
mean,
yeah,
what
so hopefully we get some more P- PC.
that would be that would be peak parquet courts.
Arcade Courts. Um, so yeah, my favorite so far of 2020 has to be Soccer Mommy or Phoebe Bridgers. It's got to be between those two. Are like their singles that they've just been putting out this year, and these albums too are just awesome. And even talk about Soccer Mommy's been doing like this kind of single series where she's releasing music, and each release, the donation of buying the single goes to some other kind of organization. Based on kind of COVID-19 to Black Lives Matter and things like that. Um, awesome music, awesome cause. So I don't know, it's tough. There's been a lot of great music this year, but Color Theory, Soccer Mommy, Punisher, Phoebe Bridgers, and Every Bad Porridge Radio, I think, are probably my front runners thus far.
Yeah, I'd say Porridge Radio. I think they're a very easy potential dethroner. Like if I definitely had to say best album, I think it would be Porridge Radio right now. But my favorite music of the year, I think this has just been a total year ever since like Christmas time, and then right into the new year. I've just gotten head over heels in love with Proto Martyr, and I was so bummed when they postponed their album, but the singles they've been putting out have just been so good. Like Processed by the Boys starting it off, it's just like such a heavy, like aggressive, like fun song, and it's got such a goofy music video, which is what I love about Proto Martyr, that they're able to be like biting and aggressive, but also like they have this sense of humor that's kind of undeniable. I love Warm in Heaven. I love that it's the song that got Austin like interested. It's a real cool like little ballad that just kind of like explodes at the end, and it's got kind of this like slightly like almost country kind of vibe to it. And then honestly, like the more I listen to it, I think Michigan Hammers is my favorite of the songs. At first, it wasn't. At first, I thought Michigan Hammers was the worst of the three. Like not worst, but the least strong of the three. But the more I listen to it, it's just so interesting. The guitar is like crackly and mean, and it's just like this shrill sort of like attack of guitar. But then like the chorus comes in, and it's just like the song, oh, it's got so many arcs and builds, and I think the way that they handle like the dynamics in Michigan Hammer is just like so good, and it makes me so excited for this album. I've been like listening to all of Proto Martyr like crazy, and I just like it's basically the only station I put on at work. Like I just get there and I'm like, yeah, Proto Martyr station. Like that's going on all day. Um, and it just like it's gotten me head over heels in love with Proto Martyr. I think they might be at the top of my like my ever changing favorite artists list, but I think right now Proto Martyr has secured a spot there, and I pre-ordered that album. I cannot wait to get it in the mail, and I just cannot wait to crack open that album and see all the exciting little surprises inside.
Yeah, I'll give him more of a chance than I have, I guess. If you're
Once you
speaking
get
so
over the
highly.
strange kind of sort of I do totally get that the lead singer, the frontman, has this strange delivery. Like he kind of sings in this way that it's almost kind of like a drunk person giving a rant over the music. Like it's really hard to describe. He's got this sort of like deep and almost kind of like slurred and kind of like slightly inebriated sounding voice, but it it's like it's so sort of baritone and baroque, and like I try to think about like how strange Ian Curtis must have sound like at the time, and I just try to think of like what is like this vocal delivery serving to the music too, and I think it's good because it serves as just this total counterpoint to what the band does in terms of delivering like a lot of like really spacious, a lot of really sharp, and a lot of really like strong attack based music. Instead, like his voice is this sort of kind of monotonous and droning and kind of like just like very kind of not mundane is the wrong word, but like mundane if there was a good way to say mundane. Like it's this kind of strange conversational approach to singing that
Eh?
like is
Eh?
totally different.
A strange conversational approach to the singing.
And scene.
Whoa.
Well,
I guess
that's a fire alarm.
Attention, your attention please. The fire alarm in the building has been activated. Cease operations immediately.
I think
Proceed to the
my
nearest
roommates
exit
just
and
set off
leave
a
the
fire
building.
alarm.
Do not use the elevator.
we were ending the episode anyway.
Please.
Wow.
The fire alarm in the building has been activated.